Hello, Betsy. My name is Luis. I'm a social worker here at the clinic. And that you prefer the name Betsy?
Yes.
Okay. And then I use he, him pronouns. Which do you use?
She, her.
She, her? Okay, perfect. I just like to always check. All right, Betsy. So the doctors told me that you've been having some concerns and some worries. And so whenever a mother or basically any patient expresses some concerns or some worries, I talk to them about some of those things to help figure those out. And I want you to know that during the point while we're talking, at any point, if you have any questions or any comments, or if I say anything wrong, I want you to let me know, okay?
Okay.
All right. So, Betsy, I understand that you had your second child about 2 months ago, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Um, Tell me about your experiences with your second child.
Um, so I know I should be really happy because this is my second child and I've finally got a boy and a girl, which is what I've always wanted. And so I should feel like my family's complete. Um, but I just feel a lot more protective of my daughter than I ever did of my son. And I've just been feeling really like I can't I can't seem to be happy even though I should be happy with my family.
So you're feeling the sort of like a different sense with this your second child than with your first, where the first time it was maybe easier to feel happy, and this time it feels like it's not coming the same way. Instead, you're
Yeah.
feeling like feelings of sadness or other feelings. So to help clarify this, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and Betsy, I want you to answer them as honestly as possible. And like I said, if they don't make sense or if you're uncomfortable, please let me know. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So Betsy, in the past 7 days, um, how much have you been able to laugh and see this funny side of things? So one, as much as I always could. Two, not quite so much now. Three, definitely not so much now. Or four, not at all.
Um, Not so much now.
Okay. And then Betsy, how often have you looked forward with enjoyment to things? So one, as much as you always could. Two, rather less than you used to. Three, definitely less than you used to. Or four, hardly at all.
Definitely less than I used to.
Betsy, in the last 7 days, how often have you blamed yourself unnecessarily when things went wrong? One, most of the time. Two, some of the time. Three, not very often. Or four, never.
I would say the first one.
Most of the time you blame yourself for things.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Betsy, how so this next question is that you've been anxious or worried for like no reason. You say no, one, no, not at all. Two, hardly ever. Three, yes, sometimes. Or four, yes, very often.
I would say four. With everything going on in the world, I feel like I'm really anxious all the time.
That makes sense. There's a lot going on, especially what's going on in your personal life.
Hmm.
And then Betsy, in the last 7 days, um, how have you been feeling scared, panicky for no good reason, or for like no reason? Would you say one, yes, quite a lot. Two, yes, sometimes. Three, no, not much. Or four, not at all.
I would say most of the time.
Okay. So would you say that that's yes, quite a lot, or yes, sometimes?
Quite a lot.
Okay. And then Betsy, in the last 7 days, have you felt that things have been getting like on top of you? One, yes, most of the time I haven't been able to cope at all. Two, yes, sometimes I haven't been coping as well as usual. Three, no, most of the time I've coped quite well. Or four, no, I have been coping as well as ever.
Um, I would say most of the time I'm not able to cope.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with me, Betsy. The next question is, I have been so unhappy that I've had difficulty sleeping. One, yes, most of the time. Two, yes, sometimes. Two, not very often. Or sorry, three, not very often. Or four, not at all.
I'd say not very often on that one. Just I feel like I'm not getting enough sleep, but that's probably just because I'm a new mother.
Okay. So you're able to get like as much sleep as you can expect having a new child, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next one says, I in the last 7 days I have felt sad or miserable. One, yes, most of the time. Two, yes, quite often. Three, not very often. Or four, no, not at all.
They probably quite often.
And then Betsy, the next one says, in the last 7 days I have been so unhappy that I have been crying. One, yes, most of the time. Two, yes, quite often. Three, only occasionally. Or four, no, never.
Only occasionally.
Okay. It's more of the feeling of it than maybe the.
Yeah.
And then 10, the thought of harming myself has occurred to me in the last 7 days. One, yes, quite often. Two, sometimes. Three, hardly ever. Or four, never.
Hardly ever.
Okay. Okay. So Betsy, thank you for answering those questions. I'm going to do some follow-up questions. So you said that hardly ever you have thoughts of harming yourself. Tell me more about that.
Um, I've had like just like passing thoughts of it, but then like I remind myself that I'm a mom and I have these people that I have to look after and I can't do that to them.
So you remind yourself that you have like something to live for, and
Mm-hmm.
when those thoughts happen, how do they come across? Is there like just a feeling of it, or did you come up with a plan, or what does that look like?
I think it was just the feeling of it. I've never come up with a plan or anything.
Okay. And then, Betsy, I want you to know that these feelings of like sadness, specifically while like pregnant or after having a child, unfortunately, it's not that uncommon. So typically within the last, or typically for most women, there's a likelihood that they have what's called postpartum depression. Is this a term that you've heard before?
Yeah.
Okay. So the highest level of risk for a mother having this sort of feeling is typically within the third month after the child is born. And this rises to like a level of probably about like 13% of mothers experience this. So like I said, it's not uncommon to happen. So I don't want you to feel like it's like you're a bad mom or that you don't have the feelings that you're supposed to, because this is something that happens to a little over 10% of mothers. Mhm. What do you think about that?
I've always heard that it's not very common, but a little bit over 10% of mothers is a lot more common than I thought it was.
Right. And I share that because, like I said, I don't want you to think that you're doing anything wrong or that it's your fault at all. It's something that sometimes happens. And so our job is to try to help you find the resources and to figure out how to proceed with it. Some things that are helpful, and also I'll be asking about is, how often are you exercising? I know that's like seems like a dumb question to ask a mom, like a new mom, because you probably don't have a lot of time, but like, do you ever like take your child out on stroller or like walks or stuff like that?
I haven't been just because it's been not great weather, but now that the weather's starting to get better, I plan to.
Okay. And then do you have other friends that are like mothers or new mothers or people that you can talk to about how you're feeling?
I've got family that I can talk to, but they're like far away.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then and then sleep is something else that we ask about, but it sounds like you're sleeping as much as you can really expect. So something that we do here at the clinic specifically for new mothers, and when I say that, I don't mean that this is your first child, I mean that you recently had a child, is there's a group of moms that like meet together to support each other that have like these sort of feelings. So it gives you a safe space to express how you're feeling about um, your child and the feelings that you're having. Is that something that you'd be interested in?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll go ahead and get you the information for that and some additional resources as well. Do you have any questions before I go and come back?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you, Betsy.
Okay. Hello, Betsy. My name is Jacob. I'm another social worker here at the hospital. I go by he, him pronouns. How would you like to be addressed?
So I just go by Betsy and I use she, her pronouns.
Okay, great. Um, so I know you met with one of my colleagues, Luis, and talked about um, postpartum depression. What I come in and I talk about a different diagnosis with you. But before I do so, um, what are you coming in for today?
So I came in for like a checkup for my baby. Uh Her name is Daisy. And I just let the doctors know that I was feeling, like you said, like a little depressed, but also like that sometimes I like blank out. Sometimes like I have like these dark thoughts that are more pertaining to like, I don't know, like my about Daisy. Uh, and I don't know if that goes with depression because it feels like different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does feel different. And I can imagine that those are very scary thoughts to be having. Um, and so you said that you've been having a little bit of those thoughts. Talk about that a little bit more with me.
Um, the thing is that like I had like all I have to compare it to is like like when my son was born, and it was different. With him, I felt like focused. I felt like I was able to like really connect. Not that I'm not connecting with Daisy. The thing is, like sometimes I'm like I feel like I don't know. It's embarrassing, and like I like the last thing that you want to feel or admit as a mom. But sometimes I like feel like, oh well, maybe my life would have been better without her. Or and then like when that happens, it's usually like I'll be doing something for her and I'll like kind of zone out, and then I won't like hear her, like her crying will like finally like click and I'll like come out of it.
Okay. Yeah. Um, and that, it sounds like those are very disturbing feelings to you. That be correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what it sounds like is that there may be a little bit of, it's called, and this is what I'm screening for, is postpartum psychosis. I know that that's a scary thing to hear, um, but I just want to kind of screen to kind of see if this may be what's going on and give you some resources of what we can do to help. Is that all right?
Yeah, I mean it does sound scary, but yeah, tell me more about it.
Okay. So the first thing that I like to do before we kind of get into the screening questions is, what is your medical history,
Um,
especially mental health history?
okay. Well, I mean, I would like to say medical. I'm like, oh, well, I've had two children. Um, but as far as mental history, I've never like been to a therapist or anything like that. I never really had like too many issues with that sort of thing. Um, I know that my grandma on my mom's side uh, had some like mental health stuff, but I'm not exactly sure. Like by the time I got old enough to know what was going on, she had like dementia and stuff, but I think there was some other stuff.
Okay. Um, okay, that's good to know. Um, and I'm just gonna kind of talk about some of the kind of symptoms of um postpartum psychosis. When did you start kind of blanking out and feeling kind of these things? How long has this been going on?
Um, I would say that probably like not, I mean, it wasn't like right away. Like this when Daisy was born, I did feel like, I feel like happy and excited. Uh, and then I would say it's probably around when we got home, like
Okay,
day 3, 4, something like that.
okay, okay. Um, thank you for letting me know that. So, um, these are just some kind of questions to just assess what's going on, like I had said. Have you been hearing, seeing, or smelling, or hearing, seeing, smelling, or feeling things that are not there?
Um, I would say with the feeling, just like those feelings that come up, like about my, like, I don't know, like it's not like tangible, but like the feeling that like something is wrong in a way.
Yes, I definitely understand what you're saying there. Um, and have you had any thoughts or beliefs that are unlikely to be true?
I mean, I just the same thing, probably just that like that maybe my life would be better without her, which I know isn't the case, or that like maybe she shouldn't be in our family, stuff like that.
Okay. Um, and I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. Have you been talking or thinking too much or too quickly, or feeling high like you're on top of the world?
I mean, maybe quickly, like when you're like thoughts like just kind of like rushing
Huh.
thoughts, and they seem like a little uncontrollable.
Okay. And is that something that has been happening since before Daisy was born, or did this kind of start happening, like you said, about the time that she was brought home?
I mean, I think that like it happens a normal amount, I think, but I
Right.
feel I feel like it's been happening more than normal.
Okay. Feel like it's been happening more than normal.
Yeah.
Um, okay. What about low mood? Have you had a low mood? Being withdrawn or tearful, a lack of energy, having a
Oh,
loss of appetite or anxiety, trouble sleeping?
oh, I've been feeling like depressed, like I talked about, for sure.
Okay. Um, and when did that start? About the same time?
Actually, no, I don't think so. I feel like it happened different. Like the depression kind of hit a little later, I think, like probably more like a weekend. I felt like the weird thoughts kind of happened first.
Okay, so the weird thoughts kind of happened first, and then the depression kind of kicked in. Was that related to the weird thoughts? Was that depression kind of thinking about it and you're like, oh, I shouldn't be having these thoughts?
I think kind of yes and no.
Okay. Expound on that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Well, I think it did kind of happen because of that. Like it made me feel bad.
Mm.
Um, Made me feel bad for having those sort of thoughts. But but then I felt like it kind of like snowballed. So then it became like its own issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So it sounds like you're kind of having um what that is called is it's a mixture of manic and low mood. The manic is when you're that really high, like, and you're thinking really quickly and just kind of can't control that, right? Um, so it sounds like you're having a mixture of that and then the low mood, that depression. Would you say that that's true?
Well, I don't know. I guess I don't understand because when I thought of manic, I always thought like it was like a happy sort of crazy, and so
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize that it could be look different. So
Yeah, yeah, and manic can look different. It can be that thinking really quickly or talking too quickly. And you know, it it isn't always just that feeling high or being like, I'm the best and this is the greatest feeling in the world. Um, so have you been feeling suspicious or fearful at all?
I mean, fearful maybe. I just don't want to. Like, I don't think I would, but I am afraid that I would do something that I normally wouldn't with my daughter.
Okay. What about restlessness?
Actually, not so much. Like I said, I sleep pretty good. I mean, I feel more worried than restless, I guess.
Okay. Have you had any times where you're feeling confused?
Like disoriented
Disoriented a little bit? Yeah.
because like I'm confused why I feel this way, but like I feel like mostly I know where I am, if that makes sense. Unless
Uh-huh.
and but like when I zone out, I do get a little, I guess, disoriented.
Okay. Yeah. That zoning out would definitely make you feel disoriented. Um, and do you feel like you've been behaving in a way that is out of character for you?
I don't know. I feel like because inside I feel different, but I don't know if that. I mean, it has to come across in my behaviors too, right? Like the way
Yes.
I act.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. Maybe you would ask my husband.
Okay. Yeah. And he's not here with you today, is he?
Uh, I think he's in the waiting room.
Okay.
He better
Okay.
be.
Well, he's with the kids, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so there are a couple of ways that we usually treat this. Um, the first is um that we have you and the baby come to a special unit at the hospital. That is referred to as a mother and baby unit, where they can just kind of observe some things some more. Is that something that you feel like you would be willing to do?
Like it looks like a doctor's appointment, or like I have to be like checked in. Like,
You would be checked in. It is part of the general psychiatric ward, just so that they can kind of observe a little bit more of what's going on. It sounds like there might be a little bit of this postpartum psychosis that's going on. And when you're in these units, they are able to, like I said, observe a little bit more and kind of see what they can do to help.
I mean, when you use the word like psychosis and unit, kind of sounds like a loony bin.
Okay. Yeah. And sadly, that's kind of how our society has made it look, but that is not the case. This is actually not extremely common, but it's common enough that we want to make sure that you are feeling supported and that you have um the support that you need. And that could be medications. This gives them an opportunity to look at some medications that may help. With the medications, they will usually use like a mood stabilizer or an antidepressant. Um, but it just gives them an opportunity to kind of see what is going on a little bit more.
Well, I have several more questions, but I will
Okay,
consider it, I guess.
okay, go ahead.
Oh, uh, like, would I be able to leave whenever I want? Like, I won't be like in a padded room or something.
No, so um with the psychiatric units, they're more like they look more like a hospital. There's not the padded rooms and things like that. Um, they're very they are very similar to like a hospital room where it would be, you have the hospital bed, and they have like the TVs and things in there. Um, they also offer some support in like groups for you, um, to make it so that you aren't feeling quite as alone in what's going on. With the being able to leave, you aren't able to leave whenever you want. It's usually, there's a couple days stay that they will do just to kind of observe what's going on.
Okay, well, I'll consider, I'll have to talk to my husband and family about it.
Okay. Um, and so with this, I definitely want you to consider it. It is really important that we do get you in soon, because this psychosis can actually get worse, if it's untreated. So we want to make sure that you are safe and the baby is safe, and just that you have, like I said, that you have that support that is needed and that you have the treatment that is needed for that. Okay, so could I give you a call a little bit later today after you've had a chance to discuss that with your husband?
Sure.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.